The title of my talk this morning is It All Counts. You know, one of the most powerful spiritual laws that we teach in divine science is the law of expression. It happens to be something we're talking about in our fundamentals class right now. What is the law of expression? And those of you who have not taken the class or haven't read the fundamentals book, it says the law of expression is like creates like, that which is born of spirit is spirit. Now, those very few words say something profound about us. Like creates like. Well, that makes perfectly good sense, logical, it's reasonable. Cows create other cows. Horses, the same. Human beings create other human beings. But when you add the second half of the law, that which is born of spirit is spirit, you've begun saying something about yourself that you might never have said before, that is, not before you walked into a divine science church. That which is born of spirit is spirit. That's saying that we were all created by spirit, by a spiritual force that is everywhere present, all-powerful, possessed of all knowledge, all understanding. We are born of, created by this spirit, and so we are first and foremost spiritual beings. We are like our Creator. We aren't just human beings. We're not just what looks back at us when we look in the mirrors. No. We are spirit. We are an integral, inseparable part of a universal spirit that created all things and sustains all things. It keeps going because of the power of God. The law of expression, that which is born of spirit, is another way, using different words, it's another way to say what it says in the Bible. And God said, let us make man in our image after our likeness. That too defines us, not just as human, not just as a temporary individual walking around in a three-dimensional existence, but as possessing all God's qualities, writ small, and not just for now, but forever. This part of the law of expression, like Genesis 1:26, which I just read, give us a perfect understanding of what we are forever and ever and ever and ever. A spiritual being with all of God's characteristics, all of God's qualities. Now, I'd like to, for a little bit, go back to the first part of the law of expression, like creates like. When we begin understanding the inner meaning of these words, we discover that, we have tools. We create and can recreate our human experience for the better. When we use this idea, like attracts like. In the Divine Science Church, we are carefully taught that, like God, we are creators. We create in exactly the same way that God creates, by holding an idea in mind. Whatever we hold in mind consistently, we create. Now, for us in this plane of existence, it takes a while very often for that to come forth. For God, it's instantaneous. What He creates comes forth right now. But why we urge you over and over and over to listen to what you're thinking about consistently in your head, what you're saying to yourself silently within yourself, is of such great importance, because that is what you are creating. What we hold in mind consistently, like attracts like. We attract to ourselves. So often, especially if we haven't worked on this. We are mentally saying critical things to ourselves. We're putting ourselves down. We are limiting ourselves. We are allowing fear to overcome us, certainly in certain pockets of our lives. Now, some of the negative thoughts and feelings we've routinely entertained in our heads have been with us so long that we've become deaf to those ideas. We're just totally unaware of the fact that they're going on. They may have been absorbed from attitudes or fears or acts that our parents or some other significant person in our childhood might have shown us, taught us. Not unconsciously, but they taught us. Over the years, we've become they have become, those ideas, those just ingrained attitudes have become soft whispers in the back of our minds that can silently attract to us just exactly what we do not want in our lives through the law of expression. Like creates like. Reverend Velma and I are like broken records on this particular subject. We keep reminding you to transform every negative thought, and we can become pretty clever about hearing them, hearing ourselves say that whatever it is to ourselves. We become clever, and we turn it into a positive thought instead of a negative. We change the negative thought into a positive thought. How? By remembering that which is born of spirit is spirit first and foremost. We are spiritual beings. We have all these inner capacities. Opportunities are all around us to use these, and powerfully. We are one with the presence. We are one with the power, the love, the wisdom of the universe. We are one with all good. We draw on the spiritual power, the wisdom, the goodness that is within us. And we draw on God's omnipresent help and His love whenever we find a negative experience in our life. That's how we turn them around. The negative experience can be healed. It can be solved. It can be dissolved. It can eventually disappear as though it never existed when we truly know that that which is born of spirit, that's you and me, is spirit. It empowers us. You know, it's been a lot of years since I talked about this, but I did talk about it. I looked back, actually, through some of my years of sermons, and I couldn't find it. I think I went back to 2004, but anyway, maybe some of you have heard this from this pulpit before. But it was about the work of Dr. Masaru Emoto. Masaru Emoto. But his life's work fits in perfectly with what I'm trying to talk about here, because it gives us further reasons to see why and how like attracts like. Now, Masaru Emoto was born in Yokohama, Japan, in July of 1943, right in the middle of the Second World War. He graduated from the Yokohama Municipal University in Humanities, and his focus was on international relations, but he went a long way away from that, apparently. In 1992, he became a doctor of alternative medicine. He believed in that. But it was in 1994 when he got the idea of freezing water and looking at the resulting crystals that came from that water through a microscope and taking a picture of them. He found that certain things have a massive effect on water. Masaru Emoto's belief was that everything is in a state of vibration, and these different vibrations, including the effect of human consciousness, produced changes in the water, in water crystals. Water crystals would reflect those differences, those changes. Now, his research on water became his life's work, and he published several best-selling books of the pictures of the crystals that he had produced. He also did seminars all over the world on his studies, his research. Dr. Emoto died in 2014, but the body of information he developed continues on and on, gives us good ideas, helpful ideas. What he discovered was that energy vibrations, like human thoughts, like words, like music, can affect the molecular structure of water. Dr. Emoto's method was to take some water samples and freeze drops of these samples for 3 or 4 hours, and then have photographers come into a very cold room and take pictures of these crystals created by the frozen water with a dark field microscope that had photographic capacities. It's fascinating that each of the resulting pictures is unique. They're never exactly alike. Now, Dr. Emoto's earliest investigations were to observe the results of freezing crystals of tap water and river and lake water. That's what he started with. But they were never able to get beautiful crystals from tap water or from rivers or lakes that were near big cities, because the atmosphere would pollute the water to a degree. They were able to get excellent results from rivers and lakes that were pristine because they were a long way from developed areas. Polluted and toxic water produced distorted and randomly formed crystalline formations. Spring water, on the other hand, created perfectly beautiful, symmetrical crystals, 6-sided crystals. Now, I want our usher to give out a sheet of the kind of pictures. Now, you'll see what I'm talking about. Up to this time, it's kind of a fuzzy idea, but when you start looking at these pictures, you'll know what I'm talking about. Yeah. Make sure everybody gets one. Okay. We have some extras we could take over to the back here. We need some more, I think, over here. Everybody got one now? Everybody. Okay. All right. Now, look at the upper 2 pictures on the left side of the page. One is of spring water, and the other is from the Udo River. Look at the difference in the crystals that were produced. At our Valley Community Church, we believe in the power of prayer implicitly. Dr. Emoto has given us visual information that supports our beliefs. In the upper right side, there's a picture of water from the Fujiyama Dam before offering a prayer. And then you can see that there are no crystal formations in it. It is the blob. But the picture right under it was taken from water crystals after Buddhist prayers were said at that dam. Again, an amazing difference. For some of his other experiments, Dr. Emoto had twice distilled hospital-grade distilled water. He felt that was pure water, and he used that for his further experiments. He next exposed bottles of water to several hours of different kind of music. Notice the difference between the pictures of heavy metal music and Beethoven's Pastoral Symphony. That's on the second rank of pictures. Heavy metal and Beethoven's Pastoral. And finally, what he did was to print words on a computer and attach those words to bottles of water, which he allowed to sit overnight. Then he took samples from each of these bottles the next day, and he froze them, and he had them photographed. And the crystals from those printed words are at the bottom of the page. Look at the crystal where thank you was on the bottle. The untreated distilled water is on the far left. But look at how it changed. You make me sick, I will kill you. Good heavens. Love and appreciation, truth. You disgust me. Just words printed on a piece of paper and attached to the bottle of water from which the sample was taken. That's how much influence words, music, thoughts can have on us. Now, for some people, this might be pretty far out. Actually, Dr. Emoto's pictures and experiments became quite well known when they were featured in a movie that ran several years ago called What the Bleep Do We Know? Of course, the scientific criticism of his work is extreme, absolutely. Even though Emoto's work was investigated and endorsed by scientists from the Institute of Noetic Sciences. And that's the organization that Edgar Mitchell created when he came back from the moon. It's certainly a research organization. It's come across wonderful things and really researches what is consciousness? What's consciousness all about? Why are we conscious beings? That's just one question. Yeah. At this time, we do not have any scientific explanation why water crystals behave as they do. But one day, I'm confident they will come across a scientific explanation for this. But for my sermon today, it all counts. Dr. Emoto's work is right up my alley. Thank you very much, Doctor. When we consider that our bodies are about 60% water, we have to ask ourselves, what am I doing to the fluids inside my own body when I think negatively? What happens when I get really mad? Or when I harbor ill feelings toward somebody and every time I think of them, I get upset? If the vibratory energy of my thoughts and words can affect, for the better or for worse, the water in my own body, what indeed, how is it affecting the vibratory energy in the water in other people's bodies around me? Does Dr. Emoto's research tell me something that good does happen when I pray for myself? When I pray for somebody else? It seems to, doesn't it? Prayers certainly improved things at the Fujiyama Dam, didn't they? Why wouldn't they improve equally prayer for myself or others? How about saying prayer over food? Would a prayer over food transform the water in it to something that created more harmony and greater nutrition in my body? Something to think about. You know, there are a lot of different ways that we can become convinced of the importance of looking at life like a spiritual journey. There might be an inner sense that, this law of expression, like creates like, that which is born of spirit is spirit, that rings a bell inside me, and I can really equate with that. For other people, or maybe in addition, Dr. Emoto's work with water might convince us. Yeah, like creates like. But whatever it is, Allow yourself to be convinced of the truth that it all does count. It all counts. Our thoughts, our words, the music we listen to, our attitudes will create experiences in life that are wonderful, good, and even better good. This is what each of us is capable of. So, make it good. You can. Shall we go within and rejoice? What lovely ideas Dr. Emoto has given us. You can call them proof. You can call them, maybe. It matters not. It is not another link in the chain of ideas that help us to see that we are, in fact, vibration. We are spiritual beings having a human experience. We are created of spirit and born of spirit is spirit. We were born of spirit and are spirit, and nothing can change that. We give thanks. Oh, do we give thanks that it is so. Amen.